I paid off my dad's mortgage after he nearly lost the house. Last Christmas, I brought my family to stay and found our rooms rented to strangers. My dad said, "Family doesn't pay. Tenants do." My daughter slept in the car that night. I stared at that house until morning. Then I drove to the courthouse and filed something that changed everything. I'm Travis. I'm 42, live in Roanoke, Virginia. Married to the woman I met when I was 20. We've got 2 kids, Jake, 11, and Maddie, 8. I run a decent HVAC business. Nothing flashy, but it puts food on the table and lets me sleep at night. At least, it used to. This story's about my dad, Bill Carter, and the house I once called home, 237, Greenbrier Lane in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He still lives there, the same house my mom decorated with country curtains and knitted throw pillows she never let us touch. She died of ovarian cancer in 2012, and since then, it's been just him. Me and my brother, Marcus, did what we could to help, but I was always the responsible one. That's what he called me. In late 2019, I got a call from Dad at 2 a.m. He was crying. Now, I'd heard my dad cry exactly 3 times in my life, when his brother died in a car wreck, when we put down our old dog Tucker, and the night Mom slipped away in hospice. So hearing him sob like that, I sat straight up in bed. My wife, Jen, turned the lamp on while I held the phone to my ear. He'd been duped. Some slick guy from Florida he met at the local Elks Club promised him huge returns on a property investment portfolio. Convinced him to refinance the house to unlock the capital. Told him he could triple it in 6 months. What Dad didn't know was that he'd signed on to an adjustable rate loan, and the scammer disappeared with the funds. He was 3 months behind. Foreclosure letters had started. He admitted he didn't want to tell me until it was too late. I drove up the next day. Walked through the door, still smelling like pine sol and memories. He looked like hell. White stubble, same shirt he wore 3 days before. I asked how much. He said, $89,000, give or take. I didn't even think, I just nodded. Said, I'll take care of it. I withdrew from my retirement. My wife didn't argue, she said, it's your dad. We handed over our savings. We tightened our belts for nearly a year, but it was done. The house was safe. He promised he'd pay me back. I told him not to worry. Just keep it in the family, I said. Let the kids always have a place to come back to. The years passed. Every Christmas, we drove up. We brought gifts, food, the dog, everything. My kids made snowmen in the same yard I once shoveled for $10. My wife baked pies in my mother's oven. I fixed Dad's broken toilet, replaced his porch light, mowed the damn lawn when the grass got high. Then came last Christmas. December 23, 2024. We'd been on the road for almost 6 hours. It was snowing, slow and steady, and the kids were restless. I texted Dad an hour out, see you soon. No reply. I figured he was just busy. When we pulled up to the house, something felt off. New car in the driveway. Lights on upstairs. Curtains I didn't recognize. I knocked. A woman answered. Maybe late 30s, worn slippers, a baby on her hip. She looked confused. I said, sorry, I think we've got the wrong place, this is Bill Carter's house. She nodded slowly. Yeah, Mr. Carter owns it. He rents us the downstairs rooms. He's not home. I stood there, stunned. I looked past her into the house. The living room was rearranged. New furniture. Toys everywhere. 2 other adults were sitting on the couch watching football. I backed away and called him. He picked up. Didn't even say hello, just, I told you I couldn't host this year. I asked what he meant. He said, I've got tenants now. They pay. Family doesn't. I asked again where we were supposed to sleep. He said, hotels exist, Travis. Use one. I didn't say a word. I hung up and turned to my wife. She'd heard it all. Our daughter was clutching her blanket, asking why we couldn't go inside. My son kept asking who those people were. We tried 3 hotels. All booked solid. Christmas in Harrisburg is busier than people think. In the end, we parked behind a Wawa. I folded down the seats so Maddie could sleep in the back. My wife curled up with Jake up front. I sat behind the wheel with the engine running, staring at that house like it was a stranger. That whole night, I didn't blink. Didn't cry. I just felt this cold, heavy wall slide into place inside me. Something broke. Something that had kept me loyal, patient, forgiving. I paid for that house. That's not metaphor. That's legal truth. So the next morning, I waited outside the Dauphin County Courthouse until they opened. I walked in and filed a quiet title action. If you've never heard of it, it's a way to claim rightful ownership or co-ownership of property when someone else is holding title but your money paid for it. I had all the receipts. Every cent traced. Bank wire to the mortgage company. Emails from Dad thanking me. What I filed that day started a process I couldn't stop. I wasn't sure what I wanted, maybe I just wanted him to know he couldn't treat me like that and get away with it. What came next? It broke my family in half. But I didn't stop. The papers were served on January 4th. I didn't call to warn him. He found out when a process server knocked on his door. I heard later from Marcus that Dad thought it was a prank at first. Then he read the complaint. He called me an hour later, furious. You suing me now? He barked. After everything I did for you? I kept my voice calm. You mean after you let my daughter sleep in a car on Christmas Eve? He paused. Then he said, you think that gives you rights to my house? I said, no, I don't think, I know. I paid for it. I saved it. Click. He hung up. Marcus called me the next day. He's a teacher down in Baltimore. We're not super close, but he's always tried to keep the peace. He started off reasonable, maybe you two can talk this out. I told him it wasn't a misunderstanding. He rented out my childhood room to strangers, Mark. Strangers. And he told me to go find a hotel while my kids sat freezing in the car. Even Marcus couldn't argue with that. The court gave Dad 60 days to respond. He lawyered up fast, some old guy from a local firm who probably did wills and car accidents. They filed a counterclaim, saying the money I gave was a gift, not a payment or investment. I expected that. But what came next blindsided me. In his sworn statement, Dad said I'd abandoned the family for years and only swooped in when it was convenient. He said I pressured him into taking the money and used it to control him. I sat there reading it at my kitchen table, Jen across from me, shaking her head. My son came in asking what was wrong, and I couldn't even speak. The man I rescued was now painting me as a manipulator. The court fight stretched for months. He refused to settle. He wouldn't even talk to me anymore. My lawyer said we had a strong case, records, bank statements, even text messages where Dad literally said, "You saved the house." But it still dragged on. Motions, responses, delays. In April, something else dropped. One of his tenants, Rebecca, the woman who answered the door, contacted me. She found my number from court documents. Said she didn't want to get involved, but she thought I should know something. She said my dad told them he'd bought the house outright, no mortgage. And used his investment profits to pay it off. He'd been lying to them. He even told them I was a troubled son who'd stolen money from the family. He said you were estranged and dangerous, she said quietly. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I asked if she'd be willing to make a statement. She paused. Then she said, yes. Her statement was enough to shake things up. My lawyer submitted it to the judge. That triggered a hearing. But before the hearing could happen, something else exploded. Marcus. He showed up at Dad's one Saturday morning and saw one of the tenants, some young guy, yelling in the driveway. Apparently, Dad raised the rent on short notice, then shut off the heat when the guy refused to pay. The guy said, "You told us you owned this place outright. Now I find out it's under lawsuit." Marcus tried to calm him down, but the damage was done. Tenants started moving out. My dad lost 2 of them by June. He called me again, for the first time in months. This time, his voice was tired. Older. You really going through with this? He asked. I said yes. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "You've always been good at revenge." I replied, "You've always been good at forgetting who helped you." Click. By July, the court had set a trial date. But before we got there, a different storm hit. Dad filed to sell the house. Claimed he needed the money for legal fees and medical bills. He tried to sell the house out from under me. When I found out he listed the house for sale, I almost couldn't believe it. My lawyer called me at 8 a.m. sharp. "Travis, I need you to sit down," he said. My dad had quietly signed with a local real estate agent and listed the house for $215,000. He told the agent he was the sole owner and had no pending liens or disputes. Which, of course, was a lie. The title was still under litigation, and the court had already scheduled a hearing. I called the listing agent directly. I said, "I'm the plaintiff in a quiet title lawsuit on that property." She went quiet. Then she said, "He didn't mention any of that." I had my lawyer file an emergency injunction to stop the sale. The court approved it 2 days later. The house couldn't be sold until the legal ownership was resolved. That should have been the end of it. But my dad wasn't done. That same week, I got a visit at my shop. A sheriff's deputy walked in holding a thick envelope. My employees just stared. I stepped outside. The deputy handed it to me and said, "Sorry, man." Inside was a restraining order. My father claimed I'd threatened him. That I'd driven by the house at night, taken pictures, and told people I was taking it back by force. All of it false. He even attached a statement from one of the remaining tenants, a guy named Barry, who swore I glared at the windows once from my car. It was true. I did sit outside the house that night. But I didn't get out. I didn't say a word. I just stared. Still, the court took it seriously. I now had to stay 100 feet from the house. Couldn't drive past it. Couldn't visit Marcus when he was in town if they were meeting at Dad's. It felt like a second betrayal. Worse still, my daughter started having nightmares. She kept asking, "Why does Grandpa hate us now?" I didn't have an answer. Jen tried to shield them from it all, but kids know when something's broken. Then, in August, we caught our break. Marcus switched sides. He came down to Roanoke for a weekend. He said he couldn't take it anymore. He'd visited Dad and found him laughing with a new tenant, some college girl he was charging double the normal rent. Meanwhile, he told the family he was broke and dying. I believed him, Trav, Marcus said. Now I see it. You were right. I told him I didn't need him to pick sides. He shook his head. I'm going to testify. With Marcus now willing to speak under oath about what he saw. And what Dad said to us privately, the case got stronger. But then came another twist. My dad changed his will. In late August, my cousin Tara, who works as a clerk at the county office, called me. She said, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but, your dad filed a new will last week. Left the house to Barry, the tenant. Not to you, not to Marcus. Not even to the grandkids. I said, who the hell is Barry? She said, no clue. Some guy he met at the VFW. It was like he was daring me to keep fighting. And I did. By the time the trial began in early October, my hands were shaking every morning. Not from fear. From something deeper. Something I didn't have a word for yet, like watching a part of you rot from the inside out, and you can't cut it off because it's your blood. The courtroom wasn't flashy. Just a small room in Harrisburg with stained carpet and an old wooden bench where my father sat across from me. I couldn't look at him. If I did, I'd see my daughter in the back of that freezing car again. The trial lasted 2 days. Day 1 was all paperwork. I brought in everything, my 401k withdrawal forms, the emails from the mortgage company, bank transfers, even the thank you message Dad had sent me that said, "You saved the house." The judge read it out loud. Day 2 was testimony. I took the stand first. I told the truth. I didn't try to make myself look like a saint. I told them I did it because I loved him. Because I thought that's what family was for. I told them about that Christmas night, the woman who answered the door, the way my daughter curled up in the back seat. Then Marcus testified. He told the court about the rent hikes, the heat being shut off, the lies to the tenants, and the will change. The courtroom was silent when he finished. Even the judge looked stunned. Then Dad took the stand. He rambled. He tried to paint me as controlling. Said I always thought I was better. Said I only paid the mortgage because I wanted power. He talked about how he built that house with his hands. How he buried Mom's ashes under the maple tree in the back. Then he said something I'll never forget, I may have taken his money, but it doesn't mean he owns me. That's when I knew I'd already won. Not the case. Something bigger. The judge didn't rule that day. We had to wait 2 more weeks. Longest 2 weeks of my life. But when the judgment came down, it was clear. I was granted a 70% ownership stake in the property. The court recognized that my financial contribution wasn't a gift, it was equity. My father was ordered to pay me rent or vacate within 60 days. He chose to stay. But that meant writing me a check every month. I told the court I'd accept it through a property management company, no contact. And Barry? He was evicted. The will he was named in. Contested immediately. With Marcus and me both as next of kin, we had standing. A lawyer drafted a new family trust. The house could never again be used against us. But the real ending? It came a month later. I visited the house one last time, while Dad was out. I walked through the halls. Same creaky stair step. Same nail still poking out of the hallway trim. I walked into my old room. The tenants' posters were gone. Just an empty mattress. I sat down and stared at the wall where my childhood desk used to be. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. Then I left. I signed the final paperwork to put the house in the trust. It's not mine. It's for my kids now. They'll never sleep in a car because someone they love forgot how to love them back. I haven't spoken to my dad since. He sends the checks on time. No note. No apology. And that's fine. Some people don't deserve closure. Just consequences.